I came to hunt the ghosts, the legends that whispered in the void. But when their shadows slid out of the woods and I felt their gaze on my back, I realized that the real predators here were completely different, and I was just a game. Xylos Prime. They called it the Whisperwind Wastes in the star charts, a long-dead world orbiting a dying sun, shrouded in perpetual twilight, and whispered to be haunted by the Lumina, the star ghosts. Ethereal beings, creatures of pure light and energy, their solidified essence worth a fortune on the galactic black market. Kalen 7, the 7 a pragmatic addition signifying my 7th successful xenofauna retrieval, had tracked the rumors for months, my instincts honed by years of navigating the fringes of known space. I was a trapper, a hunter of the rare, a survivor of the forgotten corners of the galaxy. I was used to being the apex predator. My landing ship, the Stardust Drifter Dash, was cloaked and nestled in a gnarled copse of luminescent fungi, their soft glow casting an eerie light on the alien flora. The air hung thick and humid, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else, something electric, like ozone after a lightning storm. My augmented senses, far exceeding human norms, picked up the faintest rustle in the undergrowth, the almost imperceptible flicker of movement in the shadows. The Lumina, the legends said, were shy, elusive, their passage leaving barely a trace. For days, I moved through the alien landscape, my internal monologue a constant stream of sensory analysis. Footprints? No, too indistinct. Energy residue? Faint, but fading. They move quickly. They are aware. My training kicked in, years of honing my senses, of reading the subtle language of the wild. I was patient. I was thorough. I would find them. Then I felt it. Not a sound, not a scent, but a prickling sensation on the back of my neck, a sudden spike in my adrenaline levels. The instinctive awareness of being watched. Hunted. I froze, my hand instinctively reaching for the pulse rifle strapped to my back. My augmented vision scanned the dense foliage, piercing the gloom. Nothing. But the feeling persisted, a cold dread coiling in my gut. They moved like ghosts themselves, fluid and silent, melting in and out of the shadows. I saw them only in fleeting glimpses, the glint of an eye, the curve of a limb, the subtle shift in the bioluminescent patterns of their skin. There were 3 of them. Women. Predominantly human-like. Yes, but with subtle, chilling adaptations. Their eyes, when they caught the faint light, revealed vertical pupils, like a terrestrial predator, slicing through the gloom. Their skin, a deep, earthy tone, seemed to subtly shift and shimmer, the faint bioluminescent patterns on their arms and faces flickering and rearranging themselves, a natural camouflage blending them seamlessly with the alien flora. And then I saw it, a flash of teeth in the dim light, subtly elongated, sharpened canines that hinted at a ferocity beyond human norms. They were hunters, and they were hunting me. My internal monologue shifted from the thrill of the chase to the stark reality of being the prey. Who are they? Indigenous? Rangers? They move with a grace that speaks of generations in this environment. And they see me. The first contact was swift and brutal. A net, woven from some incredibly strong, fibrous material, dropped from the canopy, ensnaring me before I could react. I hit the ground hard, the air knocked from my lungs, the constricting mesh biting into my flesh. What in the void? I gasped, struggling against the unyielding restraints. Sharp, guttural voices echoed from the shadows, a language of clicks and hisses I didn't understand. They emerged, their movements like predatory cats circling their prey. Their faces, beautiful yet fierce, were etched with a primal intensity. Their eyes, those vertical pupils narrowed in assessment, held a cold intelligence. The one who seemed to be the leader, taller, her bioluminescent patterns more intricate, her gaze holding a predatory authority, stepped closer. She carried a spear tipped with a wickedly sharp, obsidian-like point. "Intruder," she spat. The word surprisingly clear, though heavily accented. Her voice was low, commanding. "I'm not looking for trouble," I growled, trying to keep my voice steady, assessing my chances. Slim. Very slim. Her eyes, like chips of amber in the dim light, raked over my gear, my weapons. You hunt the Lumina. It wasn't a question. I'm an explorer. I lied, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. She made a sound, a short, guttural bark that could have been amusement or contempt. This is our territory. You hunt here without permission. Another of the women, leaner and quicker, with camouflage patterns that shifted rapidly across her skin, moved behind me, her movements silent as falling leaves. I felt the cold press of a blade against my throat. What do we do with it? She hissed in the same alien tongue. Observe, the leader commanded, her vertical pupils narrowing further. It is different, stronger than the usual scavengers. My internal monologue churned. They know I'm not just some wanderer. They see the hunter in me. And now I'm their game. The allure of their deadly grace, the raw power they exuded, was undeniable, a terrifying fascination blooming in the face of mortal danger. I was used to being in control, but here, I was at their mercy. And their mercy, I suspected, would come at a steep price. The hunt for the star ghosts had taken an unexpected and perilous turn. I was no longer the hunter. I was caught in a game with predators far more skilled, far more attuned to this deadly world. And the rules were theirs. Hashtag hunt for the star ghosts, part 1, the snare and the stare. The net tightened with every struggle, the alien fibers digging deeper into my flesh. My augmented strength was useless against its intricate weave. The three huntresses circled me, their movements fluid and predatory, their senses clearly far superior to my own. They spoke in sharp, guttural bursts, their language a series of clicks and hisses that resonated with the alien sounds of the forest. I could feel their eyes on me, assessing, analyzing, stripping away my carefully constructed facade of the seasoned explorer. My internal monologue was a frantic calculation of odds. Weapon access? None. Escape routes? Blocked. Information? Zero. I was a cornered animal, and they knew it. The leader, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with a steady, confident rhythm, exuded an aura of absolute control. Her vertical pupils, narrowed to slits, seemed to pierce through my very being. "Let me go," I growled, trying to project an air of authority I no longer felt. "I don't want any trouble." She tilted her head, a subtle, feline gesture. A faint smile played on her lips, revealing those subtly elongated canine teeth. "Trouble has found you, intruder." Her accent was still thick, but her understanding of my language was clear. The lean huntress behind me pressed the blade a fraction closer to my throat, a silent reminder of my precarious situation. Her camouflage patterns shifted and swirled, momentarily mimicking the texture of the rough bark behind her. She was a master of concealment. The third huntress, broader and more muscular, with intricate tribal markings etched into her skin alongside the bioluminescent patterns, circled wide, her eyes scanning the surrounding foliage, alert for any unseen threats. They were a well-oiled hunting unit. "We have claimed the Lumina in this sector," the leader continued, her voice a low, dangerous purr. "Your presence disrupts the flow. You are a competitor." "I haven't even seen a Lumina," I protested, the lie feeling weak even to my own ears. Her eyes narrowed further. "Do not insult our intelligence. We sensed their light. And we sensed your approach long before you entered our territory." "Sensed their light?" Their connection to the star ghost was more than just tracking. It was almost mystical. My scientific mind struggled to reconcile the legends with the raw, undeniable presence of these women and their predatory skills. The leader gestured with her spear. "Untie it." Carefully, the lean huntress behind me released the pressure of her blade, and with swift, practiced movements, sliced through the net. The moment I was free, every muscle in my body tensed, ready to fight or flee. "Do not move," the leader commanded, her voice sharp as a viper's strike. "One wrong step, and you will regret it." I remained still, my eyes locked on hers, my internal monologue a whirlwind of conflicting impulses. Fight? Flight? Observe? Their movements are too fast, their senses too keen. But I can't just surrender. She stepped closer, her predatory gaze sweeping over me again. "You are skilled. We sensed it in your movements, in the way you scanned the environment. You are a hunter, like us. But you are not of this world." "I'm just passing through," I said, trying a different tactic, attempting to downplay my intentions. Her smile returned, this time with a hint of genuine amusement. No hunter just passes through a world rumored to hold such valuable prey. She circled me slowly, her eyes never leaving mine. We have a choice. We can eliminate you, as we do with other trespassers. Her gaze flicked to the lean huntress, who nodded silently, her blade still held loosely but ready. Or, she paused, her vertical pupils widening slightly, a flicker of something unreadable in their depths. Or we can see what you are capable of. My heart pounded. This wasn't just about territory. This was a test. A dangerous game where my survival depended on impressing these lethal women. What do you want? I asked, my voice low, wary. You will hunt with us, she declared, her voice leaving no room for argument. You will show us your methods. We will see if you are worth the air you breathe on our world. If you prove useful, you might live. If not, her gaze sharpened, those elongated canines glinting in the dim light. Then you will become prey yourself. My internal monologue was a mix of dread and a strange, reckless fascination. Hunt with them, adapt to their savage methods, become entangled in their dangerous world. It was a death sentence, or perhaps something else entirely. The allure of their primal power, the intoxicating thrill of being forced to play their deadly game, was undeniable. I had come to hunt ghosts, but I had stumbled into a den of far more captivating, far more dangerous predators. And my survival now depended on navigating their intricate, unspoken rules, and perhaps even earning their respect. The hunt for the star ghosts had become a hunt for my own survival, in a game orchestrated by these mesmerizing, lethal women. Hashtag hunt for the star ghosts. Part 2. The Trial by Wilds. The leader, who introduced herself with a guttural name that my human vocal cords struggled to replicate. It sounded something like Kylar, signaled to the other two. The lean huntress, whose name I learned was Shira, remained watchful, her movements coiled and ready. The broader one, Vesa, moved to secure my gear, her powerful frame surprisingly agile. Kylar led me deeper into the twilight forest, her movements fluid and silent, her bioluminescent patterns subtly shifting to match the dappled light filtering through the alien canopy. Shira flanked us, a shadow among shadows, her senses constantly scanning our surroundings. Vesa brought up the rear, her presence a solid, reassuring, yet still threatening, force. My internal monologue was a constant effort to analyze their movements, their communication, the way they interacted with their environment. They moved with an almost telepathic understanding, subtle gestures, and barely perceptible shifts in posture conveying volumes. Their connection to this world was profound, instinctual, a stark contrast to my reliance on technological aids and learned skills. Kylar stopped at the edge of a steep ravine, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and strange, flowering vines. We track a wounded sky serpent, she stated, her vertical pupils focused on something unseen on the opposite side. It is dangerous, but its scales hold valuable energy. She turned to me, her gaze sharp. You will cross first. Show us your method. It was a test. The ravine was wide, the far side a sheer drop. There were no obvious handholds. My internal monologue screamed caution. They want to see what I can do. If I hesitate, I'm weak. If I fail, I'm useless. I assessed the situation quickly. The vines were thick and strong. Using my climbing spikes and a length of reinforced cable from my pack, which Vesa hadn't confiscated, thankfully, I could create a makeshift traverse. It was risky, but doable. As I worked, Kylar and Shira watched, their expressions unreadable. Vesa remained alert, her spear held ready. I could feel their eyes on me, scrutinizing my every move. There was no encouragement, no offer of assistance, only silent observation. The crossing was tense, the wind whistling through the ravine, the drop below a dizzying expanse. I made it to the other side, my muscles straining, my heart pounding. I secured the cable and signaled back. Kylar crossed with a breathtaking agility that defied gravity, her movements fluid and effortless. Shira followed, utilizing the vines with a similar grace. Vesa, with surprising nimbleness for her size, used the cable. Efficient, Kylar conceded, her gaze still assessing, but slow. We would have crossed in half the time using the Whisperwind bridges. She pointed to a series of almost invisible, naturally occurring energy conduits that shimmered faintly in the air, spanning the ravine. My internal monologue was a mix of impressed awe and frustrated inadequacy. They were so attuned to this world, they could navigate it in ways I couldn't even comprehend. My technological advantages were meaningless against their innate understanding. The hunt for the sky serpent was a brutal lesson in their methods. They moved with a silent coordination that was almost uncanny, anticipating the creature's movements, using the terrain to their advantage. Their weapons, organic-looking spears, and intricately woven snares, were surprisingly effective. I tried to keep up, relying on my tracking skills and my pulse rifle for support, but my movements felt clumsy and loud compared to their fluid grace. My energy weapon, while powerful, seemed crude and unsubtle against their precise, targeted attacks. The sky serpent, when we finally cornered it, was a magnificent beast, its scales shimmering with captured starlight. It fought with a ferocity born of desperation. Kylar and her huntresses moved in a deadly ballet, their spears flashing, their movements perfectly synchronized. I managed to land a few shots with my pulse rifle, but the creature's energy resistance was higher than anticipated. It was Kylar who delivered the killing blow, her obsidian-tipped spear finding a vital point with lethal accuracy. As they harvested the serpent's valuable scales, Kylar turned to me, her vertical pupils narrowed in the fading light. "You are a capable hunter, Kalen, 7, she conceded, using my designation for the first time. But you rely too much on brute force. You do not listen to the whispers of the wind, the heartbeat of the earth." My internal monologue acknowledged the truth in her words. I was a predator, yes, but my methods were crude compared to their refined, almost mystical connection to this world. "You will learn," Kylar continued, her gaze intense, "or you will not survive. This world demands respect. It rewards those who understand its rhythm, and it punishes those who do not." The trial by wilds had begun. I was no longer just an observer. I was an unwilling participant in their ancient dance of predator and prey, forced to adapt to their savage methods, to learn the secrets of their deadly grace. And with every passing cycle, my fascination with these fierce, untamed women, with their primal power and their intoxicating connection to this alien world, grew stronger, a dangerous allure blooming in the heart of the wilderness. Hunt for the Star Ghosts. Part 3. Whispers of the Wind, Heartbeat of the Earth. The following cycles were a brutal immersion into the Huntresses' way of life. Kylar, Shira, and Vesa became my reluctant instructors, their lessons delivered not through words, but through relentless demonstration and unforgiving consequences. I learned to move through the dense undergrowth with a newfound silence, to read the subtle shifts in the wind that carried scents and warnings, to identify the faintest tracks left by the elusive lumina. Shira, with her almost preternatural ability to blend with her surroundings, would disappear into the foliage and then reappear silently behind me, her sharpened teeth flashing in a silent reprimand for my clumsiness. Vesa, with her powerful build, taught me the art of the snare, showing me how to weave traps from the tough, alien fibers, how to use the terrain to funnel prey into their grasp. Her movements, though strong, were surprisingly delicate when setting a snare, a testament to her deep understanding of the creatures she hunted. Kylar, however, focused on the more esoteric aspects of their hunt, the whispers of the wind, the heartbeat of the earth. She explained, in her sparse, commanding language, that the Lumina were more than just creatures of light and energy. They were intrinsically linked to the planet's life force, their passage leaving subtle energetic signatures that only those attuned to the world could sense. She demonstrated a meditative practice, a focusing of the senses that allowed her to perceive these faint trails, her vertical pupils dilating as she seemed to look beyond the visible spectrum. My scientific skepticism warred with the undeniable results. They could track the lumina with an accuracy that no technological device I possessed could match. Their connection to this world was almost mystical, blurring the lines between hunter and the hunted, between the physical and the ethereal. My internal monologue was a constant effort to reconcile their seemingly supernatural abilities with logical explanations. Enhanced senses? Subconscious pattern recognition? Or is there something more to this planet, something I don't understand? As I spent more time with them, observing their rituals, their deep respect for the balance of the ecosystem, they only took what they needed, never hunting for sport. A grudging admiration began to grow within me. Their lives were hard, their existence a constant struggle against the harsh realities of Xylos Prime. Yet they moved with a fierce grace and a quiet dignity. My dependence on them was absolute. They provided food, strange, nutrient-rich tubers, and the cooked flesh of various alien creatures, shelter, crude but effective lean-tos woven from leaves and branches, and protection from the myriad dangers of this world. In return, I offered my skills, my knowledge of technology when it was applicable, and my willingness to learn. The hunt for the Lumina continued, a constant, low-level tension underlying our daily activities. We would track their faint energy trails for days, following them through dense forests, across shimmering plains of bioluminescent moss, and along the edges of mist-shrouded canyons. One evening, as we camped beneath a canopy of glowing flora, Kylar spoke of the Lumina's significance. "They are the heartlight of this world," she said, her voice low and reverent. "Their energy sustains the balance. If too many are taken, the whisper winds will turn to howls of fury. The earth will weep." Her words hinted at a deeper purpose behind their hunt than mere survival. They were guardians, protectors of a delicate ecosystem, and my presence, as a potential exploiter, was a threat to that balance. My internal monologue wrestled with this new information. Are they just valuable prey? Or are they something more? And what does that make me? Despite the constant tension and the underlying threat of their judgment, I found myself increasingly drawn to these women. Their raw, untamed power, their deadly precision, their almost spiritual connection to the wild. It was a captivating allure. There was a visceral thrill in the hunt, in moving through the dangerous landscape alongside these formidable predators. The lines between captor and captive, between hunter and hunted, were becoming increasingly blurred, replaced by a strange, almost symbiotic relationship forged in the heart of the alien wilderness. The dangerous allure of the chase, the intoxicating power of their deadly grace, was weaving a subtle, unbreakable bond. ##### Hunt for the Star Ghosts, Part 4, Shadows in the Mist. Echoes of a greater hunt. As the cycles turned, the mist that often clung to the lower valleys of Xylos Prime grew thicker, more persistent. The ambient light dimmed further, casting long, distorted shadows that danced with the movements of the alien flora. The hunt for the Lumina became more challenging, their faint energy trails harder to detect in the dense fog. Kylar grew increasingly concerned. "The shadows deepen," she murmured one evening, her vertical pupils wide, scanning the swirling mist. "The great hunter stirs." My internal monologue bristled with a primal unease. Great hunter? She wasn't referring to another tribe. Her tone held a hint of fear, a reverence usually reserved for the planet itself. She explained, in fragmented sentences and cryptic pronouncements, that the Lumina were not the only elusive beings on Xylos Prime. There was another predator, a creature of shadow and silence, far more ancient and far more dangerous, that stalked the mist-shrouded valleys. It fed not on flesh, but on energy, and the Lumina were its primary prey. When the mist thickened, it meant the great hunter was active, and its presence disrupted the delicate balance of the planet. "It consumes the heartlight," Shira hissed, her camouflage patterns shifting nervously, blending with the swirling fog. "The winds weep when it hunts." Vessa, usually stoic, gripped her spear tighter, her gaze constantly sweeping the misty surroundings. Even these formidable huntresses were wary of this unseen predator. My internal monologue, initially dismissive of what sounded like superstitious folklore, began to waver as I noticed their genuine fear. These were not women easily frightened. Whatever this great hunter was, it was a real and potent threat. Kylar revealed that their hunt for the Lumina was not just about sustenance or the planet's balance. They also tracked the movements of the great hunter, attempting to keep its predation in check to protect the heartlight of their world. My arrival and my attempts to hunt the Lumina had complicated their task, drawing unwanted attention. Your presence has stirred the shadows, Kylar stated, her gaze sharp, accusing. The great hunter senses the disturbance. And then we encountered it. A fleeting glimpse in the dense mist, a ripple of darkness, a silent rush of displaced air, a sense of cold dread that pierced through my augmented senses. It was massive, its form indistinct, its presence more a feeling than a visual confirmation. But the fear it instilled was primal, immediate. The Huntresses reacted instantly, their movements fluid and coordinated, their weapons raised. But there was a hesitation in their posture, a sense of facing an opponent far beyond their usual prey. "It hunts," Kylar whispered, her voice tight with tension. "We must not engage. We must remain unseen." We moved through the mist like shadows ourselves, the Huntresses utilizing their camouflage with an almost supernatural effectiveness. I struggled to keep up, my human senses overwhelmed by the swirling fog and the oppressive sense of being watched. My internal monologue was a frantic attempt to process the encounter. Energy predator? Invisible? This is beyond anything I've ever encountered. My pulse rifle suddenly felt inadequate, my skills as a trapper useless against a foe that existed outside the realm of conventional hunting. Kylar realized my limitations. "Your fire stick," she said, her voice low but urgent. "It disrupts energy. It might deter it. But be cautious. It is drawn to power." My pulse rifle, designed to disrupt energy fields, might be my only advantage against this ethereal predator. But the risk was immense. Using it could attract the very thing we were trying to avoid. The hunt for the star ghosts had become a desperate game of survival against a far greater, unseen threat. I was no longer just an intruder or a potential competitor. My presence had inadvertently drawn the attention of something ancient and terrifying, and my unique skills might be the only thing that could help the Huntresses protect their world. The allure of their predatory grace was now intertwined with a shared sense of peril, a dangerous alliance forged in the heart of the mist-shrouded wilderness. The ultimate hunt was upon us. Hashtag hunt for the star ghosts. Part 5. The Heartlight, the Shadow, and the Hunt Eternal. The mist swirled and thickened, the air growing heavy with a palpable sense of dread. The Huntresses moved with an almost ritualistic silence, their senses strained, their bodies coiled for action. I clutched my pulse rifle, its energy cells humming with a nervous energy of their own, the weapon feeling both like a lifeline and a beacon in the oppressive gloom. Kylar led us towards a hidden clearing, a place where the lumina congregated in larger numbers, drawn to a natural energy nexus. It was a dangerous gambit, venturing into the heart of the great hunter's hunting grounds, but Kylar believed that protecting this concentration of heartlight was crucial. "If it feeds too deeply here," she explained in hushed tones, her vertical pupils wide, reflecting the faint, ethereal glow emanating from the clearing ahead, "the balance will shatter. The land will wither." The clearing was breathtaking. Dozens of lumina drifted through the air, their bodies shimmering with pure, soft light, casting an otherworldly glow on the mist-shrouded foliage. They moved with a gentle, hypnotic grace, their silent passage leaving trails of sparkling energy. It was a sight of profound beauty, a stark contrast to the lurking danger. My internal monologue was filled with a sense of awe, quickly replaced by a surge of protective instinct. These ethereal beings, once mere targets for my hunt, now felt like something precious, something worth defending. The Huntress's reverence for them was contagious. Then, the temperature dropped. A wave of cold dread washed over the clearing. The lumina began to flicker nervously, their gentle glow dimming. The shadows in the mist seemed to deepen, to coalesce. The great hunter was near. Kylar gave a silent signal. The Huntresses spread out, melting into the shadows, their camouflage patterns shifting to become virtually invisible against the misty backdrop. I positioned myself near the center of the clearing, my pulse rifle raised, my senses on high alert. The air grew heavy, the silence broken only by the soft rustling of the mist and the nervous flickers of the lumina. Then, a ripple in the darkness, a distortion of the air, a sense of immense, unseen presence. The great hunter materialized slowly, its form still indistinct, a swirling vortex of shadow and cold. It was far larger than I had imagined, its presence radiating an aura of ancient, predatory power. The lumina recoiled, their light dimming further, their graceful movements becoming frantic. The great hunter moved with an unnerving silence, its attention focused on the largest concentration of lumina. It was a being of pure energy consumption, its very existence a threat to the heartlight of this world. Kylar and her huntresses attacked with a coordinated ferocity that was both terrifying and magnificent. They moved like blurs, their organic weapons crackling with captured energy, striking at the great hunter's indistinct form. But their attacks seemed to pass through it, causing only momentary flickers in its shadowy mass. My internal monologue screamed with frustration. Conventional weapons were useless. Kylar's warning echoed in my mind. It disrupts energy. Be cautious. It is drawn to power. There was no other choice. I focused my aim on the great hunter's core, the densest part of its shadowy form, and fired a controlled burst from my pulse rifle. A high-pitched shriek tore through the clearing, a sound that seemed to vibrate in the very fabric of existence. The great hunter recoiled, its shadowy form flickering violently, tendrils of darkness dissipating into the mist. My weapon was effective, but it had also drawn its full attention. The great hunter turned towards me, its unseen gaze feeling like a physical weight. The air around it crackled with negative energy. I could feel its predatory intent, its hunger for the energy that pulsed within me, within my weapon. Kylar and the huntresses renewed their attack, attempting to draw its attention away from me. Their movements a desperate dance of defiance. Flee, Kaelin. 7. Kylar yelled, her voice strained. It hunts you now. But I couldn't leave them. We were all caught in this hunt, bound by the shared danger and a growing sense of camaraderie. I fired another burst from my pulse rifle, forcing the great hunter to retreat momentarily. Then, an idea sparked in my mind, a desperate gamble. Using my knowledge of energy fields and the planet's natural energy nexus, I began to manipulate the output of my rifle, focusing its disruptive energy into the ground. Attempting to overload the natural conduits that drew the lumina to this place. The ground began to tremble. The lumina pulsed with an erratic light. The great hunter recoiled, sensing the disruption to its food source. Kylar understood my intent. She and the huntresses redoubled their efforts, driving the great hunter towards the destabilized energy nexus. The climax was chaotic and intense. The ground cracked, releasing bursts of raw energy. The lumina scattered, their light flickering wildly. The great hunter roared in silent fury, its shadowy form writhing. Then, with a final, coordinated strike, Kylar and her huntresses channeled their combined energy into a single point, striking the weakened great hunter just as it crossed the overloaded nexus. A blinding flash erupted, followed by a shockwave that knocked me off my feet. When I could see again, the great hunter was gone. The oppressive cold had lifted. The lumina's light began to stabilize. The hunt was over. Kylar approached me, her vertical pupils narrowed in assessment, but there was a new respect in her gaze. You fought with the heart of a hunter, Kaelin. 7, she conceded. You understood the whispers. I had faced the ultimate predator, fought alongside these fierce, untamed women, and survived. I had come to hunt legends, but I had found something far more profound, far more captivating. The resolution was not a clear acceptance, but a sense of shared experience, a bond forged in the crucible of the hunt. I remained an outsider, but perhaps one who had earned a measure of their respect. As I prepared to leave Xylo's prime, the image of Kylar and her huntresses, their deadly grace, and their fierce connection to their wild world, was etched into my mind. I was no longer just a trapper. My time on this mystical planet had awakened something primal within me, a deeper understanding of the hunt, of survival, and of the dangerous allure of those who moved with the heart of a true predator. The call of the star ghosts might draw me back to the emptiness of space, but the echo of the huntresses and the thrill of their deadly game would forever resonate within me. The hunt eternal had left its mark.